Before we start a new case here today, just want to give you a few more details on the update we did last week on the case of Jalasia Finkley. The body that was found in Florida has been positively identified. According to NBC Boston, the St. Lucie Medical Examiner's Office has confirmed that those remains are in fact Jalasia Finkley. And we get another disturbing piece of information with that. The cause of Finkley's death, 2 gunshot wounds. The case has been officially ruled a homicide, but of course, we think the person that did this is already dead. So where the investigation goes from here, I really don't know, but my heart is very, very heavy for this family and trying to deal with all this. In the same state, Massachusetts, about 4.5-hour drive away from New Bedford, where Jalasia went missing, is another area called Fall River. And that is where today's case is going to take us. It's time to turn on the searchlight for Lisa Hazard. Welcome to another episode of Brainscratch Searchlight. I'm John Lorden. Thank you so much for caring about these cases like I do and helping me raise exposure to them. This is a case that really needs some help on that front. Essentially, I know we started this with an update about Jalasia's case. That's a case that got a ton of press, even all the way up to the national level. For today's case, Lisa Hazard, not quite. Actually, we've pretty much got one person that's really fighting to try to pull awareness up for this case. And we're going to talk about him as we continue forward. To start this case, we're going to start at the NamUs profile. And let me just tell you guys, yes, I have heard the news about the funding issue with University of North Texas and NamUs. Just to be clear, I still don't know 100%, but some of the language I'm seeing around this conversation is that NamUs might not be going away, but UNT is not going to be managing it going forward. Essentially, there was an amount of money that UNT said that they couldn't take to continue managing NamUs, but that doesn't mean it's going away. I'm trying to learn more information, and as I do, I'll be sure to share it with you guys here on Searchlight. But let's get to today's case. Lisa T. Hazard, her middle name is Teresa, a white Caucasian female. Date of last contact, here they have it March 3rd, 2019. So we're talking well over a year and a half at this point. But I have to tell you guys, after looking into the different articles on this, which for the most part are pretty shallow, they're kind of just a repeat of a press release done by the police. And we're going to find that that press release didn't come out very close to the actual disappearance. The date is sliding around a little bit, so we're going to have to just remember to be kind of loose with that date of last contact. Missing from Fall River, Massachusetts at the age of 28. She currently is 30 years old. She does have a nickname listed here as Lee or Lily. She stands at 5'9", 110 pounds. So let's get into the details. Once again, missing from Fall River. Lisa left her home in New Bedford, Massachusetts. So interesting connection to Jalasia's case. In the early morning hours of March 3rd, 2019, she told her son's father that she was going to Fall River to procure drugs before checking into rehab. Now, I know that sounds very odd right off the bat, but it's not that strange of a thing to occur. If you've ever had someone close to you that has struggled with drug abuse, that seems to be kind of a familiar pattern. And of course it is. They've essentially got a part of their personality that's fighting them. Like one side of them wants to get to rehab. The other side is saying, okay, I'll agree to do this, but only if we go back down that dark hole one more time. And of course, that voice wants to get stronger by taking you down that situation again. So it's not all as strange as it sounds. I know a lot of you out there are probably saying, what? She wanted to go to rehab, so she was going to go score one more time? Essentially, yes. Lisa was picked up in New Bedford by an unknown individual and has not been seen or heard from since. Last seen wearing black sweatpants and brown boots, has a zodiac tattoo on her right wrist. For physical description, she's got brown hair, brown eyes. For distinctive physical features, really the only thing is a tattoo of an Aries symbol on her right wrist. And they've got a close-up of that photo here. Unfortunately, it's not a very solid photo. Most of the tattoo is actually missing from it. So here are some different photos of Aries symbols. What's strange is even from looking at these, oh, maybe this one. Yeah, that one seems to make sense. That one might be a match, because I was wondering what this middle point was. You've got these kind of two horns and then this middle point that is pointing through, where if you take this one and turn it sideways, I think that does match. So it's probably looks something like that. Back to the details, just black sweatpants, brown boots, no other information entered. And we're going to find out there's some different details. She was in New Bedford, but that wasn't necessarily where she was living. She was visiting someone there, but we'll get into more of that as we continue. Over at Charlie Project, one of Hazard's friends stated that in spite of her addiction issues, she had a close relationship with her loved ones and loved her son. The person that she was visiting in New Bedford was her 3-year-old son, who actually lives with his father. The friend of hers said that after her sister died of a drug overdose several months prior to her disappearance, Hazard decided to get clean, which was why she had plans to check into rehab. And he is very adamant about her plans to check into rehab. As a matter of fact, he's pretty honest himself that he's a user and that they were what he considers boyfriend and girlfriend for at least some period of time. They've known each other since their teen years, essentially. But I've seen him interviewed. We're going to hear some words from him in an article here. He just really wants to drive in the point. This was her decision. She was deciding that it was time to clean things up and she was going to go into rehab. She went and visited her son first. She actually packed. Her friend was there watching her pack. Apparently she can only take 3 days worth of clothes into the rehab. So she was packing one kind of smaller bag to do that. And he's also very clear that since this was her decision and everyone kind of knew of some of the ups and downs of her lifestyle before, there's really no reason that she would need to like disappear from her family or to run away from them. Now, the only thing that makes me wonder a little bit about that is this angle about her sister. And here it's saying that it was several months prior to her disappearance that her sister died of the drug overdose. Other things I'm seeing, social information, is saying that it might have been a bit longer than that. That period of time for me is a little interesting to try to understand, because if we're talking, a few months before that her sister passed away, it could be that shame or embarrassment was a bit of a motivating factor in terms of pushing her towards rehab. And then when she couldn't go through with it, maybe that would keep her away from her family, her friends, and even her own son. So I'm kind of wondering about that aspect here, but it's tough to know with a case like this because we've got so little coverage. Like I told you guys, pretty much it's just press release coverage that was done from the police department that the media picks up and just repeats. Thankfully, one paper did a bit more work than that, largely in part due to Eddie, her very close friend, I guess we'll call him for the rest of this video, who just kept raising such a ruckus that he was able to draw some attention to this case. Let's continue over at wikipedia.com with a quick touch on where this is happening. Fall River is a city in Bristol County, Massachusetts, United States. The city of Fall River's population was 88,857 at the 2010 census, making it the 10th largest city in the state. It's located along the eastern shore of Mount Hope Bay at the mouth of the Taunton River. All right, so what do we get for news coverage? ABC6.com has a post June 4th of 2019. So we're already looking at approximately 3 months after she is last seen before we really get any media coverage going on here. Fall River police searching for woman missing since March. Police are seeking the help of the public in locating a missing woman who is believed to be endangered. Fall River police are searching for 29-year-old Lisa Hazard, last seen March 5th, according to this article. Hazard told her family she was leaving the home but did not disclose her destination. that some people are looking at that and saying, well, that's weird, because in one story they're saying we don't know where she was going, and the other stories are saying no, she was going to rehab. I think the truth is right in the middle of that. She told everyone she was going to rehab, but she wasn't clear where she was going to rehab. So that might be where this statement is pretty much a little more accurate. Hazard has not been seen nor heard from by family or friends since her disappearance. One other thing, it's interesting that this article comes out and it's being clear that police are thinking that she is endangered at this point. According to information from Eddie, she had some medical needs. There was some medicine that she would take regularly, and it's believed that she didn't have that. They also have a state, I guess in Massachusetts, they have a state medical kind of ID card that is used. And Eddie was kind of upset because he was telling investigators very early on, hey, she was talking about going to rehab, or, she's got these other medical things. Check that ID card, see if there's been any transactions on it. And then several months later, he hears from an investigator, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to check on an ID card and see if there's any transactions on it. So Eddie, very frustrated with law enforcement. And you're going to hear he had to do a lot, it sounds like, just to get the initial attention on this case and keep it going. And he's been working at that. Over at WHDH.com, pretty much the exact same article. One additional detail. Police say Hazard is known to frequent New Bedford and Taunton. Her family lives in Fall River. So a few different areas where we might be looking for Lisa. Now, a lot of Eddie's kind of crusade on this seems to be occurring in Facebook, and it's on Facebook where I see something that I have never seen before in any other case that we've covered here on the channel. This is Lisa's Facebook page, and look at the most recent post from August 7th, 2019. This is the Fall River Police. As it turns out, Lisa's account has been left logged in to multiple devices that Lisa has used in the past. If anyone has any information on her possible location or any information that may be helpful in locating her, please call. And of course, I've got all the remaining contact details that you need in the description box below. But I saw an interview with Eddie. I'll have a link to that down below as well. And he was saying he really believed that at least for some period of time after she went missing in early March, he was seeing activity from her Facebook account that he thought was legitimately her. It seemed like she was reviewing posts that he had made. What I'm curious about is if you have police that are effectively accessing her account this openly, that they're actually making a post there, and they're talking about the fact that she was logged in all over the place, anyone could have really been looking at that stuff. And one of the posts on this page, I believe, is a joke by Eddie where you could take it, I think you could take it away where it seems like he might have been joking about being violent with her. And I don't think that's the real intent of the post. But if I was a family member and I saw something like that and I had access to her Facebook page, am I going to look through his posts? Yes. I'm not even a family member. I looked through most of his posts for the last year. Or year, actually almost 2 years to get back to March at that point. So I don't know if we can really trust the Facebook activity, but there's another very interesting aspect of this. She didn't have a cell phone, according to Eddie. She did have a tablet that she would take and she would basically use to jump onto people's Wi-Fi. If she was using that tablet, Facebook has pretty decent tracking features. Very easy for you to go into your security information and see everywhere that you're logged on. And it doesn't just tell you the type of device, it actually tells you the location. So if police really thought she was active on her Facebook and they have this level of access that they can make a post, they certainly have the level of access to look at her security settings and they could see where she was logging on from. But here we are over a year and a half later, and she's still missing. And of course, keeping that in mind, if she has a Gmail account, location tracking could also be used from that service as well with the Google Maps timeline. So if she left that logged in somewhere, there's another way that they could be trying to trace her digitally to find out where she is. But quite honestly, I know Eddie is really questioning if the police are working on this case as hard as they can. Something we do find out, Eddie mentions in one of the articles that she did attend Bristol Plymouth Regional Technical School. I have not been able to find a lot of information in terms of who Lisa is as a person. In the interview, Eddie and Lisa's brother actually speak about her a little bit, and really they just hit the point of this is someone that's very passionate, very strong-willed, someone that is going to tell you her point of view, and if you like it or not. But I'm not getting a very strong sense of, did she have career aspirations? What were those career aspirations? Just likes, dislikes, hobbies, simple kind of social information that might help us understand what circles she might be interacting with. It's just not really very strong out there right now. So unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot to share with you guys on that front. On June 4th, 2019, so basically when that initial press release kind of comes out, mystery continues over missing and endangered woman with Fall River, New Bedford, Taunton ties. She told her family she was going to a rehab facility. It's unknown which facility. The Fall River Police stated earlier this year that the Major Crimes Division is continuing to follow up on this case. I was just a little concerned when I heard it was being handled by a Major Crimes Division, but I know in some departments, they will kind of lump in their missing persons detectives in that unit. From what I understand about Fall River in particular, they have one detective that's dedicated to missing persons full time. So it could just be that that one detective is in the Major Crimes Division. And I do understand from information from Eddie, the detective that was working it isn't working the case anymore. And Eddie claims didn't do a very good handoff to the new detective because Eddie was in contact with the new detective and trying to refer to things that he had told the previous detective, and the new detective had no idea what he was talking about, according to Eddie. Over at the Taunton Gazette, Eddie states that he put up so many flyers all around the Taunton Gazette, and he was kind of blasting them on Facebook too. I saw it from his own page. Eventually, they got a staff reporter to talk to him, and this might be the best news source that we have about this case. So I want to thank both the Taunton Gazette and Eddie for kind of making this happen, because without this article, I don't even know if I could have covered this case today. And we finally get some details about what's going on in this search. Keep in mind, we don't really have a last known location. So doing some type of volunteer search effort or professional search effort or cadaver dog search effort, all that stuff is pretty much off the table. She went out to visit her son. She saw her former boyfriend, and that's about it. She said she was going to rehab, but she was going to meet up with someone first. She got a ride with that person, and then she's missing. Now, Eddie believes that that person has key information, and we're going to hear more about that in this article. Eddie Pimental of Taunton wants to get the word out that his close friend Lisa Hazard is still missing. Quote, "Until I know for a fact she's alive and breathing, I'm not going to stop looking for her," he said. He says that she went missing after visiting her 3-year-old son for a couple days at the New Bedford home of the boy's biological father. Pimental, 34, says he last spoke to Hazard the night of March 4th, 2019, when she told him she was packing her stuff in anticipation of getting a ride from New Bedford to enter a drug rehabilitation facility. Eddie says she alternately had been spending nights and days at her mother's Fall River apartment and the apartment in Taunton where he lives with his mother. It was from Fall River, he said, that Hazard departed the day she traveled to New Bedford. So that seems to be kind of lining up with the other information we heard, that she had told her son's father that she was going back to Fall River for kind of this last big score before she went into rehab. Family reported her missing to Fall River Police about a month after he last spoke to her on the phone. And that's an unfortunate aspect here, but we've got drug use. I'm sure we have a lot of tough feelings that are going on around that within the family already. Plus, we have this understanding that she's going into a rehab facility. So if all of a sudden you don't hear from her for a week or two, what's the initial assumption? That she's in trouble? Because, the last message you got was no, she was going to get cleaned up. So it's very tragic that that's the outcome, but I think it's kind of easy to understand why it would happen that way. Eddie says it wasn't until early June, after he made repeated calls to Fall River Police, including the chief's office, as well as a phone call to the mayor's office, that police issued a press release to media outlets. Quote, "I made 5 formal complaints to the police, but they thought it wasn't serious," he said. Now, he heard that from one particular investigator. He couldn't remember the investigator's name when I saw him interviewed about this. But for him to have to ring that bell so hard just to get a press release out to the media, and those press releases, they do help. I mean, admittedly, the articles that came out of that, they're all simple. They're kind of just regurgitating what the press release was, but now 4 publications put that out. That could be a few thousand people in the local area that are now aware, at least, of the case, that are now seeing her picture. But of course, when you have the stigma of drug use attached to a case, where's the deeper coverage? Where are the media sources that are saying, you know what, we're going to reach out and interview the mother. We're going to interview the brother. We're going to find out what's going on with this case and really find the humanity in the story so that it connects and resonates with people. That doesn't happen pretty much until the Taunton Gazette, and the humanity that they're finding is Eddie trying to raise awareness to his missing friend's case. And it looks like he had to go through some serious steps to do that. Eddie doesn't deny that both he and Hazard have had a history of drug use and that she was scheduled to begin treatment at a rehab facility. Knowing that Hazard had said she was about to go into rehab and then went missing worries him even more. Pimental believes that police would have made a more concerted effort to track down leads if not for the fact that Hazard, who at one time he says he considered to be his girlfriend, didn't have a reputation for abusing drugs. If you have a drug history, you're screwed, he said. And I can tell you, we see that time and time again. As I'm looking for cases for presenting to you guys, sometimes they don't even have this much information. And this case really has the bare bones of what I can do to pull together an episode for you guys. He's absolutely right. And I think there's another aspect to that. It could be that those publications, maybe they did reach out to the families. Maybe the families didn't want to comment. Maybe they didn't want to show up in a newspaper associated to this. Maybe they had been down a similar road before where she would disappear for a period of time and they knew that she was kind of off on a bender or something along those lines. There's just, the emotional layers are so deep when you're dealing with issues like this. And shame can certainly drive us to do things in very bizarre ways. So it's possible that those publications reached out. I don't want to say like, hey, no one cares, no one cares. That's certainly the story Eddie's putting out. Just let me be absolutely clear about it. But it's tough. It's tough when you have people that aren't quite working together to get the information out there to really help progress this case, because it could be as simple as they're worried about being embarrassed that, oh, she's found, she's completely fine. She was just in this bad circle and disappeared in someone's apartment for a matter of months or something like that. Pimental said he sat down in early June with 2 Fall River detectives who interviewed and listened to him for an hour and a half inside Taunton Police Headquarters, but he says he subsequently was disappointed to learn that the lead detective had been transferred to a different job and that her replacement knew nothing about the case by the time that Eddie got him on the phone. He says he urged police to track down and interview a small-time drug dealer who had been selling drugs to Hazard, but he says Fall River police have said they've been unable to find him. According to the Facebook interview that I've seen, Eddie says that 2 days after this article came out, all of a sudden police said that they found this guy. Eddie said he pointed out to them, well, I looked at the guy's criminal history and you basically had him in jail at some point during all this for 10 days. And no one talked to him about this. So just what's important about this guy is Eddie believes that he's the last person to have seen her, but he's being clear, quote, "I'm not saying that he did anything to her, but I think he knows something," Eddie said. He also said that her mother has been extremely worried and said it's killing her. I'm hearing some social information, and I don't have any confirmation of this, but it's possible that her mother might have actually passed away since then. So if that's true, this family is just facing so much grief. Very, very tough. Back to Eddie. I have no faith in police at this point, he said. It's taken way too long and they started too late. Pimental said a close friend of Hazard who lives in California has helped him spread the word about her disappearance via Facebook. And I haven't said this in a long time, but I just want to remind people, Facebook is a little bit of a bubble. For some people, it's very controversial. Sometimes the information you put in there is never seen outside of that. And that's really one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video, get this on the #2 search engine in the world, YouTube, and give Lisa's case another shot, give some more eyes and bring some more awareness to all this. Pimental has also been putting up posters announcing a $1,000 reward for any credible evidence leading to Hazard's whereabouts, with the money to be paid by one of her aunts. He also stated in the Facebook video that reward might have increased. I think it's up to possibly $5,000 at this point. Quote, "We had a close relationship. We spoke every day. We confided in each other. She would have called us," he said. "She missed Thanksgiving, Christmas, and her kid's birthday. She's a responsible adult who takes care of her son and loves her son." And that's really one of the biggest things that they're freaked out about, is just her not having any contact at all with her son. But also consider this aspect of this friendship that she has with Eddie and that they've used in the past. You know, if she is in a spot where she's using and she just wanted to get a message back, "Hey, I'm okay, just let them know I'm just going to be off grid for a while," isn't Eddie kind of the perfect person to receive that message? Shouldn't it be kind of easy to let him know where she's at? I don't know. There could be other dynamics going on there with, you know, him saying that possibly it seemed like they were almost boyfriend, girlfriend at some point. Over at heraldnews.com, Fall River detective says investigation into missing Taunton woman remains active. So that article comes out, and then we've got kind of a reply to that article that comes out from the police. "If someone you know or care about suddenly goes missing, don't wait too long to contact police. Quote, "We encourage people to report missing people just like crimes as soon as they can," said Detective Sergeant Thomas Moretti. The 32-year Fall River Police Department veteran was responding to a January 11th Taunton Daily Gazette story. A Taunton man describing himself as a close friend last week told the Gazette he last communicated with Hazard via Facebook Messenger on March 4th, after she had gotten a ride to New Bedford to visit her 3-year-old son at the residence of the boy's father. Moretti says while it appears Hazard did intend to enter rehab, it has not been confirmed that she spent the night at the New Bedford home of her son's father before she disappeared. Kind of interesting tidbits that are coming out in that statement. First of all, confirmation from the police that they must have heard from multiple sources that she was intending to go into rehab. But then just kind of a weird analysis that, hey, we can't confirm that she actually spent the night at her son's father's home before she disappeared. I'm not sure why that's in there. He also notes it's not unusual for a person after entering a substance abuse rehab facility to not alert anyone, including friends, relatives, or police, as to his or her whereabouts, which, once again, I think is totally fair. I think we've already talked about that, but I also find it interesting that the start of this article is like, hey, we didn't hear about this. It was, over a month before we heard about this. Well, is it reasonable to not reach out with a missing persons report if you think someone's in rehab, or isn't it? Because we're kind of getting both points of view in this article. Hazard told the Gazette that Hazard's family, I think they got that wrong. Eddie told the Gazette that Hazard's family waited at least a month before contacting Fall River Police about her disappearance. Moretti said it was even longer. He says it wasn't until April 23rd. Okay, so the range of time I'm hearing about is she might have been active on Facebook all the way up until March 7th. In the original article, Eddie actually says it was about a month, and Moretti's saying that they hear about it on April 23rd. I mean, it's like a strange argument at this point. Now, I don't know why. Moretti said Fall River police logged 698 missing persons reports in 2019, with 526 of those involving juveniles. So this feels like an excuse. And actually, I'm going to read the line before it that I didn't highlight. Moretti says he understands Pimental's concerns, but noted that missing person reports constitute a significant volume of cases in a given year. Yes, but if you look into the stats, and I actually looked at them again today because I wanted to try to really firm this up. Look at the stats nationally, look at stats internationally. The fact of the matter is somewhere around 98 and possibly even higher percent of these cases solve themselves. They don't involve really the police. The police are effectively taking a missing persons report, and then within 48 hours, the vast majority of these people are going to show back up. So why are we throwing around this number in this particular conversation? I don't know. This is a different classification of missing persons case, and I wish that they would formalize that nationally. Like, I wish they would say, if you have a missing persons case, person hasn't been in contact for, let's say, 90 days, that automatically gets transferred to a criminal division and it's treated in a much different way. Because yes, I understand, bunch of paperwork, bunch of reports you've got to file. The vast majority of them, you're not going to touch. Like, just think of how that affects you emotionally. Like, if you were a dedicated investigator and you're taking in all these reports, which according to this article, this is the article where they say, the department has a detective assigned on a full-time basis to investigate missing persons cases. Let's say he works 240 days a year. You've got 700 cases there. So, he's going to be taking somewhere around 3 missing persons reports a day. But 98% of them, that's really all that they're going to have to do. I mean, yes, you could maybe take the report. There should be like a little micro workflow of take the report, create a poster and a media post, and send that out. And the press release automatically goes to your local media. Like, there should just be a little workflow of that. 3 cases a day. Like, how much paperwork could that really be? And then maybe, that's like your first 2 hours of the day. And then the rest of the day, you dig into those cases that have hit that 90-day mark and they need a lot more heavier investigative steps. Or you kind of work the cases that are nearing that mark, the cases that are starting to become risky. Maybe it's been a couple weeks and that case hasn't cleared itself. There's gotta be better processes than this. And throwing around numbers like, hey, we take 700 of these reports a day, without being honest about, out of those, 690 of them are really they're going to solve themselves within the first week. Like, it feels like an argument that's going on between the police department. Feels like they're being defensive, and it feels like they've got a reason to be defensive because Eddie's been lashing out a bit online and now finally in the press, and it's obviously getting to someone. Moretti, 52, said that people interviewed by police during the past 7.5 months in the Hazard case have all been very cooperative. Something else Eddie said was they were going to ask him to do a lie detector test, which people that were watching the Facebook video were telling him, don't do it. They're not helpful. There's nothing they could do except make investigators look at you sideways, effectively. Moretti says that the investigation remains active and that no stone is being left unturned. We're looking for the right people to talk to and are asking the public for any information they may have, he said. Moretti said that while foul play cannot be ruled out, police have not identified anyone as being a person of interest. So it's weird because we kind of get this, we're asking for the public's help. And really, this is only the second time that they've communicated with the public, at least through media. I did go looking on their Facebook page. I think I've seen 2 posts about the case, and the first one was effectively a copy of the press release that went out. But we don't know how to help. This is another one of those cases where we have no timeline. We have no last known location. We don't even have a good clothing description. We got pants and shoes. That's it. This case is missing the basics all over it. And it feels like it's missing the basics on the investigative front, but it also feels like it's missing the basics even kind of on the social front. You've got Eddie kind of taking this up, trying to do everything he can to pull awareness to this case, but it still is lacking some organization. There's not a Facebook group that I've seen that's dedicated to this as a missing case. I saw some posts from Eddie where he was saying that a GoFundMe was going to be coming, but I can't find anything about it. And it's one of those things, even if you had the public support, where do you direct that? We don't have a last known location. We can't say, hey, we're all going to meet, at this particular park and we're going to go looking for her. So a lot of challenges, a lot of very, very big challenges, and a lot of questions. Just, is everyone really doing what they can to help move this case? And if not, why not? Is it really, are we really talking about because this is someone that is struggling with drug abuse that we can just forget about them? I hope not. Over at turn210.com on March 3rd, 2020, we start seeing another run of articles, but effectively they're the same as the articles that came out the previous year. The Fall River Police Department said they are still searching for a woman who has been missing for nearly a year. No new details, all the same information. Absolutely nothing additional. Here's another one at wcvb.com. Same. Just nothing new, no additional details. Over at WPRI.com, same thing. Police are searching for a woman, 5'9", slim build, brown hair, brown eyes, tattoo on her right wrist. Last seen wearing black sweatpants and brown boots. Known to frequent Fall River, New Bedford, and Taunton. There is a little write-up at truecasefiles.com about this case. Effectively, I think that we've hit all the major points about it, but I'm going to include it in the links down below. And please remember, I do have the interview that was done on Facebook with Eddie down below as well. It's about an hour long. We'll give you some additional insights, but I think we've hit all the major points here. And I do want to give a very big thank you to a brain scratcher that is trying to raise awareness to this case. She reached out to me and asked me about it. She's been sending me some information, kind of more on the social front, but I'm going to see if maybe I can entice her to help on the organizational front. Maybe we can get a Facebook page going on this. And I know I was just talking about the Facebook bubble, but when you're looking at a case like this, it's one of the basics. Like, let's just put a group together, a place where we can start centering the information, try to get a timeline in there, even if it's super light for right now. Eddie sees her on this night. She goes traveling on this day. Her son's father says that he last saw her at this time. Like, let's just start getting the basics somewhere where we can really start analyzing this. Because right now it's very loose, not a ton of detail, and it does make you wonder how much work is being done on the case. And it's a shame. I think there's a very good possibility that she is out there somewhere. I think there is a possibility that perhaps the addiction swept her up. I mean, that the things that we do know, her talking about going into rehab, but then, oh, well, I'm going to go and score one last time. That seems to be leading to a very specific path. Now, I'm going to say in the social information, I am also seeing some things about possibly trafficking in the area, or a trafficking type situation. When we looked into Jalasia's case, we talked about that possibility as well. I'm seeing similar themes that are running through this case also. So I think that's another possible consideration. Do you guys have any other thoughts or considerations on this case? Please tell me about it in the comments down below. And as always, I ask that we are respectful to the case, to the family, yes, to law enforcement as well. I know we're having tough conversations. We're trying to keep a critical eye on this. But of course, we respect them. Of course, we want to help support law enforcement's efforts. And that's a huge part of what this video is for. So please don't take that any other way outside of, we're just trying to get Lisa found and brought home so that this little boy knows where his mother is again. A very big thank you to new patrons, Blonde Angel, Melissa Armstrong, and I think it's Hugga Bugga. Thank you guys. If you'd like to support the channel, please visit lordandarts.com, where you can sign up for Patreon, sign up for PayPal, or buy merchandise. All of it helps keep me here trying to help these families in these really, really tough situations. And remember, it's the holidays. People that are struggling, this is probably a time of year where some of those demons might be raising their heads again. If you've got someone in your family like that, let's try to keep our hearts open and see if there's something that we can do to maybe help them, maybe guide them to the right decision. Maybe it's even sharing this video or talking about this case with them. Take care, everyone. I'll see you here again on Friday with a brand new episode of Brainscratch on the Lord and Arts channel.